going to go into the Acropolis of Thessaloniki. You're going to see that it is inhabited, so you will see many houses all around the place, and then we will go to our third stop, which is the Church of Saint Demetrius. Dimitris or Demetrius is a really common name here in Thessaloniki, and he is our saint patron. He is the protector of the city of Thessaloniki. What is he waiting for?
Excuse me.
Just a minute, because we're waiting for the taxi. This one, the whole one, is upper town in all. This one we call it the Tower of Trigoni. 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 Exactly.
Tower of Trigoni.
And different names as well, but I don't want to confuse you more. It is in the upper town and the Tower of Trigoni, over there, the whole area. And now we're going into the Acropolis and then visit the Church of Saint Demetrius. Saint Demetrius is connected to many miracles here in Thessaloniki. He's the saint patron, and there are stories about people who saw him already in the walls of the city, going around the city. Every time the city was threatened by the enemies, and he would protect the city. That's why people are so believers, and they do believe that Saint Demetrius is a really important saint. He lived here in Thessaloniki in 4th century, late 4th century, 3rd century, and early 4th century after Christ. It means 280, 305. He was a Roman man, a general. He was part of the army, and he became a Christian. But he became a Christian in a period when Christians were persecuted by Romans because it was supposed to be something illegal, and he was killed, he was speared to death with many spears, and unfortunately that happened in 305, and then in 311 the emperor decided to have Christianity totally free for everybody, meaning that it was not that Christians stopped being persecuted anymore, but it was too late for Saint Demetrius. He died in 305, and then his friends created a chapel on top of his grave, and then that chapel became a big church, 7th century after Christ, which unfortunately got burnt down in 1917, and for 30 years the church was in ruins, and then we built a new one in 1949. It's been there for the last 70 years, but it integrated parts of the old church, so that's why it belongs to UNESCO. It's an UNESCO monument. I don't know if you heard about UNESCO, but UNESCO, yeah, it's a big international organization that protects all monuments and fosters the protection of monuments, and actually and it creates a network between different UNESCO monuments. In Thessaloniki we have 17 UNESCO monuments, which is really big. In whole Greece we have 18 UNESCO archaeological sites and monuments, which is quite a lot if you consider that Greece in general is a small country of 11 more or less million people. Now Thessaloniki has 1.5 million inhabitants. The center of Thessaloniki is 600,000 people, but the whole metropolitan area is 1.5 million. So many people. Now, when we arrive at the church, we're going to visit the church, and over there we're going to talk more about it. Before I mentioned, things about the architecture of Thessaloniki. Since now again we're driving through the upper town, the old city. If you have the time, it's totally worth it to come over here again, either to your left or your right, because the whole area here is full of narrow streets. It's like a Greek island, let's say, with trees and small balconies. A really nice place. When we go down, a little bit down to the port and near the waterfront, or even in 150 meters from now, the scenery changes. You see big blocks of flats, you see big buildings. It is because of Greece's history, because everything, we need to check everything under the historic context. And the historic context was like that, indeed, Greece went through many conquests. It means that, as you see, Greeks were really charming people, and everybody wants to conquer us. So they want to come over here and conquer the whole country. We had many conquerors, and they destroyed many parts of Greece. It happened the same during Second World War. From 1940 to 1945, Nazis came over here, and we had a really bad occupation. We were the country number 3, the third country in the world when it comes to casualties. We lost 1 million people out of hunger. Imagine, in Athens, the Nazis blocked, the Second World War. It was a war that actually, many countries of the world took part. We took part, and we were against the Nazis, so it meant that they conquered us, and they blocked all ways of goods and products to Athens. So people were starving. We had 300 people dying out of hunger per day. That was something, horrible that happened. And plus, they bombed us a lot, so all infrastructure was destroyed. As if that thing was not enough, after the Second World War, check the view in front of us. This is really amazing as well. It is as if the Earth is not round. The feeling I have is like, different one. As if that thing was not enough, from 1945 to 1951, we had a civil war here. Civil war meaning that, Greeks fighting Greeks, unfortunately. And that thing left us totally devastated, completely destroyed. No infrastructure, no farming, nothing at all. So many people started immigrating, leaving Greece, going to Australia, the States and Germany. At the same time, people were really poor, and at that point there were contractors contracted by the state coming over to you. You would own a really simple 2-story humble house, and they would tell you, would you like to exchange it with 2 or 3 flats in a big building we're going to create out of your place? So we will bring it down, we will create a 7-9-story building, and you will get 2 to 3 flats in that building. So you can understand that back then it was a huge thing for Greeks, because we would have water supply, we would have electricity, we would have restrooms in the flats, because in the past we had restrooms in the garden. We had to walk 50 meters to go to the loo. So it was like really important to the loo. It was really important for us, and many people gave away their homes. So we had a building orgasm, as we call it, late 50s and the whole 60s, which was of huge importance, and that's why all these buildings you see around you, it was that period when they were created. The same in Athens. We call them cages, everyday cages. Unfortunately, this is the name. Indeed, they are, they might look really bad. Sorry about that. They might look really bad, but we need to see them into the historical context that took place, and that was what happened back then. Many other old cities really survived. It was because people built their new homes a little bit further around that place and not in the old district. Nowadays in Thessaloniki, a big part of the old district survived, thank God, but again with many old new buildings and cage-looking buildings all around. This is what happens in Eastern Mediterranean in general, Now we're going towards the church of St. Demetrius. And you can see that the traffic is like big. We have parking lots, but not many. It means that if you pay a closer look to this street, it's not a narrow street. Actually, it's quite broad. But since there are people who park all around the place, then it becomes really narrow. The traffic thing is like really a huge thing. Totally legal, totally illegal. Yeah, of course. Usually what they do is that they don't park it for next centuries, of course. So it is like for some time just to deliver their goods, their products and everything, and then they go back. But yes, it is illegal. On the other hand, the state didn't give us more chances to find where to park. Plus, Greeks, Thessalonikians as well, don't really trust public transport, although they should. It means that they would take the car even for 3 kilometers. Why not take the public transport and go to the place you want without the burden of, without bothering where to park your car? In general, in Greece, the whole political system is really, how can I say it? It can be tricky. You know that as well. Yes, in your country it was tricky, at least in the past when I used to study some things. In Greece, in general, Greeks don't really trust our government, and the government doesn't really trust us back. And that thing leads to really bad things. During the Greek crisis in 2015 till 2017, when we had a really bad crisis, it was the Greek recession, as we call it, and we were in big financial difficulty. That thing actually saved us, because the state collapsed, but we didn't trust it anyways. But we create really good relationships with each other, and we show solidarity to each other a lot. So that thing actually saved us from the Greek crisis. Not to believe in the state. But in general, it's something that really bothers us, and it's not a good thing. In many states in the Mediterranean, this is the case. But in Greece, it's really big. To your right-hand side, you see Alanza Imaret, an Ottoman building. Alanza means colorful in Turkish, and it was an Imaret. Imaret was like an orphanage for Muslim orphans and a seminar. It means a place where the Quran would be taught. Okay? And again, at the same time, it was a place where soup would be served. Soup kitchen. It means that they would cook soup for all people who would be poor, irrespective of religion. So this was something really good. What they would do, every poor people would come over here and be served, not feel hungry. But it's a building of dating back to the Ottoman period of Greece. As we said, Greece was liberated from the Ottomans in 1912. Sorry, but there were many Muslims living till the period of 1922. I'm saying that because it is connected to St. Demetrius, because in 1912 we got liberated on the name day of our saint, St. Demetrius, on 26th of October. I don't know if you're aware of it, but in Greece we're really fond of name days. So we celebrate name days and birthdays as well. So we have 2 celebrations every year. It means that we receive gifts twice per year. This is really amazing. But on the other hand, at the same time, we need to give gifts twice to our friends. So let's say we keep the balance this way. In 1912, we got liberated on the name day of St. Demetrius on 26th of October. And I will tell you more on the bus later on, towards our next stop, what happened in 1922 that actually completely changed Greece and its character. For the time being, we're really close to the church, and to your left-hand side, you can see the Ministry of Macedonia and Thrace. Macedonia, again, Greek Macedonia, okay, northern part of today's Greece, and it's the only ministry we have here in Greece. It used to be the Ottoman Kolnak, it means the city hall, the governor's mansion before 1912. It was the place where the governor would live, and it was built by an Italian architect called Boselli. Boselli had many commissions by the Ottoman state. He was Sicilian, so Italian origin, and he used 30,000 eggshells to build the foundations of this ministry, and eggs in general, because you know eggs have the ability to make the foundation more solid, yeah, and thick. So that's why he killed actually 30,000, chicken to build this ministry. I don't know how many mom chickens burned back then, but indeed it was something that was left to us on his granddaughter's memoirs. So you never know. Maybe it's a legend. Maybe it happened. Maybe it was reality. In front of you, to your left-hand side, diagonally, little by little, you will be seeing the Church of St. Demetrius, our next stop. Perfect, the parking was waiting for us here. It's always great to have tours in the evening, it's not like in the morning. Here we are, we're going to get off, but just to be correct, we need to go all the way up to cross the street, okay, because it can be really dangerous, so you need to follow me. And we will have a short introduction out, and then we will enter, and you will have the experience of a Christian Orthodox church. If you haven't been yet, it will be really interesting. Off we go.